the world has been infected with the silly virus.
Yup, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation. So I joined this serious game jam called the Very Serious Juniper Dev Game Jam, where I have to make a very serious game in 7 days. The theme for the game jam was spin to win, and the first thing that came to my head were gambling. But I feel like most people would go for the gambling idea, so I began thinking of other ideas. The ideas that I got were hamster wheel racing game, incremental spin the wheel game, 2D puzzle platformer where you spin the level, Beyblade game, propeller hat flying game, and cube world puzzle rotate. I decided to go with option 6 since I feel like it's probably the most unique over the other ideas. I also decided on making the game in Unreal Engine 5, specifically C++, not Blueprints, because I'm a programmer and I kinda wanna get more comfortable with it. Since the game jam is 7 days and I also have a full-time job, I would only have time to work on it after work and during weekends. So I had to finish the core mechanic on the first day. I also worked on the game solo, so I had to think about the art, sounds, puzzle design, and how to make my game in the seriousness criteria as well. So I started with the first-person template Unreal Engine has, and I quickly was able to create the core mechanic, which was quite simple to do. I also grabbed a couple of 3D models from Sketchfab and Fab Marketplace for the objects that I am taking, and also removed the environment light and skies. I did that because I want my game to have a distinct look, so I made a custom skybox for the game using binaries. The way I did it is turning this copy pasta into binaries and then pasting it in Microsoft Paint, which works well in the engine. Then, I also made my own custom shader to make everything have outlines except for the sky. I also made the objects I can interact with and grab highly emissive for visibility purposes so the player can see clearly where they are aiming to go. I also added a simple respawn functionality of when the player drops outside of the platforms and a simple UI for interaction visibility. I also added a bit of feedback of when the player is looking at the buttons, and also a simple shrink animation of when the object is grabbed. Now you might think the game is pretty much done, but you are wrong. The hardest part of this game is not the implementation, but the level design. Since I can rotate the pitch, yaw, and roll, I basically have to think in 3D on how to make an intuitive puzzle. Also, originally I wanted to keep the walls for all the rooms, but I decided to remove it for visibility purposes, since I don't want the players to lose sight of the goals, and also since the emissiveness is not visible when there is an object behind the goal or interactable. So it took me a few days, but I managed to come up with simple puzzles for a total of 8 levels, and each level has 2 solutions, one for the silly burger and the other one for the serious briefcase. Originally, I wanted to expand more on the mechanics, but I decided against it since I barely have any time for it and I don't want to overscope. The next thing I wanted to do was make a GLaDOS-inspired narrator talking to you. So I recorded myself, and this is what I sounded like before. Hello, my name is Bob and welcome to the Gyroverse assessment simulation. And this is what I sounded like after I edited it.
Hello, my name is Bob and welcome to the Gyroverse assessment simulation.
I also added subtitles so people can easily understand what I am saying. I almost forgot, throughout those 8 levels, the core mechanic is essentially the same, but there were some levels where there are multiple rooms that can connect with each other, which I thought was pretty cool. I also added a simple pause and main menu, and a couple of people that saw and tested my game mentioned that the background can be a bit too much, so I added a setting where you can adjust the brightness of it. I also added some music and sound effects, and I added an intro cutscene, and you already saw some parts of it at the start of the video. The game also features 5 endings in total, and I won't tell you guys the conditions on getting them, just in case you guys would like to try the game out. Let's just say the endings are worth it. The game is called Gyroverse, and I'll link the game in the description down below. Overall, it was a pretty fun game jam. I was able to be more comfortable in Unreal Engine C++, and I also made a game that I can be proud of. Of course, the game is far from perfect. There are a couple of things to fix, like readability on the platforms not being good in some parts, and some bugs that could potentially pop up. But for now, I could say that I came out with a game that I am happy with. Also, Juniper, if you see this video, thank you so much for hosting this game jam. There's a total of around 11,000 attendees and around 3,000 games submitted, which is insane. I encourage some of you guys to give the games there a try as well. And don't worry, I am still currently working on Night City, which you guys should check out too on Steam. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.